At 25, the world felt small and heavy. I stood in a muddy, rain-soaked field with Mike, my best friend since the 7th grade. We were staring at a rusted, beat-up trailer that looked more like junk than a dream. For 7 long years, we had broken our backs laboring for a boss who did nothing but brag about his fancy lake house. Meanwhile, we were barely scraping by on hourly wages, living paycheck to paycheck. The air was thick with the smell of wet earth and resentment. That day, something shifted. Mike turned to me, his eyes burning with a sudden intensity, and asked, "Why don't we do this ourselves?" It was a simple question that changed everything. We decided right then to stop building someone else's empire. We sold my motorcycle, emptied every cent from our savings, and bought 2 battered mowers. We were young, broke, and determined. The first year was a blur of sweat and exhaustion. We worked 18-hour days, knocking on doors until our knuckles bled and the sun went down. We ate cold ramen in the back of my pickup truck, dreaming of a future that felt miles away. When the business finally hit its stride, we split the world in 2. I took the outside. I handled the operations, managed the crews, and dealt with the clients in the heat of the sun. Mike took the inside. He managed the office, handled the taxes, and kept the accounts. I trusted him with my life. He was my brother. By our 4th year, we weren't just a small crew anymore. We were a massive success. We were landing commercial contracts worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was so proud of what we built that I never looked back. I was so focused on the grass and the machines that I signed every document Mike pushed across my desk without a second thought. I trusted his accounting expertise blindly. Then came the day the sky fell. A property manager pulled me aside after a routine inspection and asked, "So, Mike said you're leaving the company? Is it true?" In that moment, my blood turned to ice. I didn't wait for an explanation. I rushed to the office, my heart hammering against my ribs. I tore through the filing cabinets until I found them. Folders full of forged ownership transfers. Document after document where my 50% stake had been whittled down to a mere 5%. It had happened slowly, over years, hidden beneath my own blind signatures. Every paper I had signed, without reading, was a nail in the coffin of my career. I felt a physical sickness wash over me. The man I had shared my ramen with, the man I had built a life with, had been systematically erasing me from our own success while I was out in the fields working for us both. When I finally confronted him, Mike didn't even blink. There was no guilt in his eyes, only a cold, calculated distance. "Friendship doesn't build wealth," he said flatly. He didn't offer an apology. Instead, he slid a check for $12,000 across the desk like he was tipping a waiter. "Take it and go," he told me. The next morning, I found the locks changed. I was barred from the bank accounts and the building I had helped pay for. The next 2 years were a descent into hell. I entered a grueling legal battle that drained what little I had left. I had to sell my personal belongings just to pay for an attorney. But the news from my lawyer was even worse. He warned me that because my own signatures were on those documents, the theft looked perfectly legal on paper. I was trapped by my own hand. Eventually, I had to settle for a tiny fraction of what the company was actually worth just to escape the nightmare and keep my sanity. I felt like a ghost in my own life. I started over at 30 years old. I was alone with 1 truck and 1 mower, just like the beginning. But I had something Mike didn't. In this industry, reputation is everything. When words spread about what he had done, the mask slipped. My former clients and employees realized they couldn't trust a man who would devour his own brother. They abandoned him. I rebuilt my business from scratch, brick by brick, with my eyes wide open. Mike's company crumbled under the weight of his own greed and the lack of anyone willing to work for a snake. He ended up right back where we started, managing crews for someone else. I no longer feel the burning rage that once consumed me. I lost a company, and I lost a brother, but I kept my work ethic and my soul. I learned the hardest lesson of my life. Trust is never a substitute for accountability. If you ever start a business, read every single line of every single document. Because the most expensive thing you will ever own is the signature you didn't bother to read.